Welcome to our deep dive, where we explore the Pomodoro Technique.
Oh, cool.
We're using excerpts from Francesco Cirillo's book.
The creator.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we'll get into the details.
Nice.
You probably heard of it.
Uh,
Breaking your work into intervals.
yeah, typically like 25 minutes.
Right, with those short breaks.
Makes sense.
Simple, right?
Okay.
But the intriguing part is how this basic structure can change your whole relationship with time.
That's right. It's not just about productivity. It's about understanding effort.
Yeah.
How we deal with interruptions and those mental things that can help or hurt our workflow.
So Cirillo outlines 5 stages.
Yeah.
Planning, tracking, recording, processing, and visualizing.
Right.
What do you think is the most crucial one for someone just starting?
I think recording is where the magic happens.
Oh,
It forces you to see how much effort tasks actually need
okay.
compared to what you thought.
Interesting. So it's not just to-do lists and checking things off.
Right.
It's about analyzing your work patterns
Exactly.
and getting better at estimating effort for the future.
Yes.
Sounds useful for anyone who struggles with overcommitting
Definitely.
or underestimating how long things take.
Absolutely. It's moving from guessing to
I like that.
data-driven planning,
Okay.
which brings us to a core concept, the indivisibility of a Pomodoro.
Okay.
If you get interrupted during those 25 minutes, it's void.
Wow.
You got to start a fresh one.
Oh.
Seems strict, but it's key for shifting your mindset.
So how does that work in real life?
Okay.
Let's say I'm writing a report, and remember, I need groceries.
Cirillo gives some great examples.
Okay.
He talks about Mark writing a music article and wanting pizza, and then Lucy summarizing research but thinking about concerts.
Interesting.
They might seem like small distractions, but they show how we avoid things.
I see.
We're not really hungry or desperate for concert dates.
Right.
We're just resisting the task.
That's really insightful.
Yeah.
Like, distractions are smoke screens for procrastination.
Exactly.
But Cirillo doesn't just leave us hanging.
No, he doesn't.
He gives strategies for interruptions, right?
Precisely. He splits them into internal,
Okay.
those urges in your mind,
Yeah.
and external ones from the outside world.
That makes sense.
For internal ones, he suggests marking them with an apostrophe on your sheet.
Okay, so we acknowledge those thoughts.
Yes.
Instead of suppressing them,
Right.
we choose how to proceed.
Takes away their power.
I like that.
Yeah.
What about external interruptions?
Uh-huh.
Phone calls, emails, colleagues needing a quick minute.
He suggests inform, negotiate, call back.
Okay.
Let's say your boss has a quick question mid-Pomodoro.
Oh, yeah.
You explain you're focused.
Right.
Negotiate a time to talk later,
Okay.
maybe in 25 minutes or that day.
Mm-hmm.
Then follow through.
So setting boundaries and respecting your time
Yes.
without being rude.
Exactly.
Do you think people are receptive to this?
It works surprisingly well.
Really?
When you commit to focused work,
Uh-huh.
others adjust their expectations and respect your time more.
That's encouraging.
It is.
We've talked about those initial stages and distractions, but how does the Pomodoro Technique help us estimate time for tasks?
Right.
I'm sure many struggle with that.
As you record your Pomodoros,
Yeah.
you start to understand how much effort things need.
Okay.
It's data, not guessing.
Uh,
Let's say editing a blog post takes 3 Pomodoros, not 1.
hmm.
That's valuable for planning,
So it's about self-awareness and refining predictions.
based on real experience.
That makes sense.
Right.
What if we have a huge task
Okay.
that feels overwhelming?
Cirillo suggests breaking them down
Mhm.
smaller bits,
Okay.
especially if they're more than 5 to 7 Pomodoros.
I see.
This stops you feeling overwhelmed.
Right.
It gives you milestones.
So instead of a giant task,
Mhm.
we have a roadmap
Yes,
with steps.
exactly.
What about small tasks? They don't need a whole Pomodoro.
Combine them into 1 Pomodoro.
I see.
It shows the system's flexibility,
Okay, great.
adapting to different work.
Awesome.
Yeah. Optimizing those 25 minutes for efficiency and focus. Cirillo also says tracking your estimates is important.
How so?
Are you always underestimating or overestimating or getting it right?
Okay.
That helps you plan better,
I see.
becoming a more accurate forecaster.
So it's not just using the Pomodoro Technique by itself.
No, it's not.
It's about making it part of a bigger system
Uh-huh.
of self-awareness and improvement.
Mm-hmm.
That's fascinating.
It is.
Cirillo talks about refining the technique itself.
He does.
What are some examples?
Use the first few minutes of a Pomodoro to review
Review.
what you've done so far.
Okay.
Not just in the last 25 minutes, but since the start of the task.
Got it.
Then use the last few minutes to recap,
Okay.
solidifying those learnings.
Brilliant approach for learning and retention,
It is.
like mini study sessions within each Pomodoro. Cirillo also talks about applying this to sets of Pomodoros, right?
He does. He highlights repetition and revision,
Interesting.
especially doing it aloud or with a colleague.
So we're not just managing time.
Right.
We're optimizing how we use it to learn.
Yes.
That's great. He also emphasizes having a defined work period,
He does.
a timetable that you stick to
Even with setbacks.
prevent those guilt spirals,
Yes, where you end up working late and skipping breaks.
which hurts productivity in the end.
Exactly.
It's about a sustainable rhythm, not exhaustion.
Right.
Cirillo gives real-world examples for this, right?
He uses Albert's workday to show how the timetable works
Okay.
in good and bad situations.
Interesting.
The takeaway is the Pomodoro Technique becomes a framework
I see.
for mindful time use, not just finishing tasks.
Makes sense. But there's always a learning curve with new methods.
There is.
Understanding the challenges is key.
Cirillo stresses that mastering it takes time and practice.
And he talks about those breaks being important.
He does. They're not just for preventing burnout.
Right.
They actually help learning and mental processing.
So for those who value efficiency and thoroughness,
Yeah,
breaks are an investment, not a distraction.
that's a good way to look at it.
A shift in perspective for many.
He also observed that as you get used to the technique,
Okay.
your perception of time can change.
Really?
Pomodoros might feel different,
Like
like units of focused energy.
That's wild. Even the sounds
Yes, the ticking and ringing.
can go from annoying to calming.
Signaling dedicated work time.
That's an unexpected benefit. Changing our view of time itself.
It is.
We focused on individual use.
Right.
But Cirillo also talks about teams.
Yes.
What intrigued you about that?
The team practices he introduces are interesting.
Like
Pomodoro rotations.
for someone new to micro teams, what are they?
Think of breaking a big project into smaller parts.
Okay,
Micro teams focus on those parts
I see.
with a defined goal and autonomy.
But swapping members regularly seems counterintuitive.
Cirillo says it boosts knowledge exchange.
Interesting.
Each person brings their perspective to a different team.
So using disruption to enhance creativity.
Exactly.
What other team practices stood out?
He describes snap your Pomodoro,
What's that?
taking a photo after each Pomodoro,
Interesting.
creating a visual timeline,
I see.
appealing to visual learners and useful for reflection.
A record of the team's flow state. I love that.
It is good.
But what happens when teams get stuck? Cirillo has guidance for those situations.
He calls it the Pomodoro Hackathon.
Not the all-night coding marathon we imagine.
No, it's a focused effort to solve a problem.
Okay, walk me through it.
Let's say a team struggles with a research.
Uh-huh.
They dedicate a set time, maybe 4 Pomodoros to tackle it.
Okay.
They form smaller teams, often pairs,
Got it.
all working on the same problem.
Like a pressure cooker for ideas. But does it work?
It can. Multiple teams with different angles
Mm-hmm.
often produce many solutions. At the end, a jury evaluates and picks the best one.
When you say jury, what does that mean?
They're the decision makers.
Okay.
It could be the team with the problem or stakeholders or the whole team.
I see.
They choose the best solution.
Blending structure with freedom. I like that.
Cirillo uses those core principles throughout.
Of course.
Regular breaks are key
Especially in that environment.
to fight fatigue and keep the creative energy going.
The Pomodoro Hackathon sounds amazing.
It is
But what if one team slows down the whole project?
what Cirillo calls a bottleneck.
Does he have a solution?
He calls it the practice of the ram,
Okay.
like a battering ram, using the team's strength to break through.
How does that work with a modern team?
Let's say a team has 4 micro teams.
Oh, okay.
One hits a roadblock.
Uh-huh.
Instead of stopping everything for brainstorming,
Right.
the practice of the ram kicks in.
All right. I'm listening.
The stuck team asks for help,
Okay.
briefly explaining their problem.
Got it.
The other teams lend one member, rotating at the start of each Pomodoro.
So fresh perspectives
Yeah,
with every interval.
that's a good way to put it.
The person with the block task stays,
To provide context.
and the others offer insights.
Exactly.
Breaks allow for debriefs.
Yes,
That's brilliant.
it is.
Using the team's wisdom without stopping everyone,
Right.
like a targeted intervention.
Cirillo emphasizes the Pomodoro structure again.
Cool.
Focused work and breaks help this process.
So individual work leading to better team performance.
That's the idea.
What are Cirillo's thoughts on the impact on teams?
He says it creates a shade rhythm,
Okay.
everyone working within the same framework,
That's got to help with communication and coordination.
especially for remote teams or different time zones.
It's a common ground for productivity.
Exactly.
Huh.
The Pomodoro Technique encourages mindfulness and collaboration.
I see.
Breaks offer chances to connect,
Okay.
discuss progress, and spot problems early.
In the rush of projects, teams often forget that.
The
Beating to issues.
The Pomodoro structure fixes that.
It's not just about doing tasks.
No.
It's about doing them well together sustainably.
Cirillo also noticed it speeds up learning.
How so?
Team members support each other, share ideas, and stay accountable.
A built-in support network.
Yes.
Did he see any other benefits?
He saw a sense of camaraderie,
Nice.
which can be very motivating.
It's amazing how this technique can have such an impact.
It is.
Before we wrap up,
Yeah.
what's the practice of the counter?
Imagine a team with many requests
Okay.
from colleagues, clients, even managers.
Interrupting their work.
Yes.
Frustrating.
The practice of the counter is the solution.
Okay.
The team has a designated counter
I see.
where 1 or 2 members handle requests.
So they triage those requests.
Yes, helping immediately if possible.
Okay.
Scheduling responses for others.
Right.
And creating a queue for complex issues.
That protects the team's focus.
And it fosters knowledge sharing.
Interesting.
The counter team learns about challenges and bottlenecks.
A proactive approach to problems.
Cirillo recommends Pomodoro rotations here too.
To spread that knowledge,
Yes, members swap between the counter and the main team.
ensuring everyone understands the challenges,
Exactly.
like a continuous learning cycle.
It is.
The practice of the counter shows how adaptable the technique is,
It does.
optimizing focused communication and learning.
This has been a great exploration.
It has.
From individuals to teams.
We've covered a lot.
What are your main takeaways for our listeners? The Pomodoro Technique changes how we see time and work.
Okay.
It gives us control over our schedules.
Right.
And helps us prioritize and achieve flow.
It's a reminder we're not controlled by the clock.
We're not.
We can shape our days and manage distractions.
And create a rhythm for our goals.
That's a great message as we move to our final thoughts.
It is.
We've really explored the Pomodoro Technique, haven't we?
We have from individual use to teams.
Looking at its core principles.
And how it changes our view of time.
As we wrap up this insightful journey, what stands out to you as the most valuable takeaway?
You know what fascinates me?
What's that?
It's the simplicity of it.
Okay.
It combines a timer, a to-do list, that commitment to focus,
Right.
and creates this powerful system,
Yeah.
not just for managing time,
Mm-hmm.
but for managing our relationship with work itself.
It's like bringing mindfulness to productivity.
It is. It encourages us to be more present
I see.
in each 25-minute interval.
Okay.
And as we track our progress and see those patterns,
Uh-huh.
we understand ourselves better.
Our strengths, weaknesses, even our avoidance tactics.
Exactly.
I'm impressed by how it stresses a sustainable pace.
It does.
It's not about pushing until we're exhausted
Right.
and skipping those breaks.
Leading to burnout.
It's about finding a rhythm,
That lets us do our best consistently.
long term.
Yes. And that's where the breaks are so important.
They're not just for mental fatigue.
I know.
They help us process and learn.
Cirillo saw how breaks often helped people shift perspective to find new solutions.
So it's not just about time management.
No, it's not.
It's about managing energy, focus, creativity.
A more complete approach.
Cirillo says mastering takes time,
It does.
but the benefits come quickly.
Often right away.
Even just setting that timer for 25 minutes,
Yeah. And
I
focusing.
think make a big difference.
It's like a reset button,
I like that.
reminding us to be present.
And as we add those other parts,
Tracking Pomodoros, analyzing patterns, refining estimates,
trying those team practices.
we become even more effective.
For those who want to learn more,
Yeah.
what resources are there?
Cirillo's website has tons of info,
Like what?
templates, articles, online courses.
Nice. And for those who like connecting with others,
There are online communities and forums.
dedicated to the Pomodoro Technique.
That's right.
Great starting points. To wrap up,
Mm-hmm.
it's a final thought for our listeners.
Where in your life could you use more conscious time? What goals, projects, or even daily tasks
Yeah.
could become better with that focused intention?
From the Pomodoro Technique.
Exactly.
That's a great question. It makes us think about our time.
And how to use it for a better life.
Thanks for joining us on this exploration.
It was my pleasure.
And for our listeners, may your Pomodoros be filled with focus.
And a feeling of accomplishment.
Thanks for being here.
Anytime.